39 days left until this event is becoming a real scary reality. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Road to the Scale Nationals video. Now, if you're not familiar with this series, so far what we're doing is we're tracking along with my progress of building 3 trucks to compete with at the SORRCA Scale Nationals down in Logandale near Las Vegas, Nevada. Scale Nationals runs SORRCA rules, and SORRCA rules break classes into Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. I have the start of my Class 1 here, the start of my Class 2 here, and you see all that I've completed with my Class 3 in front of me. Almost nothing. Exactly nothing, actually. Since my last video, I have made progress on both of the 2 builds here in front of you. We're gonna cover what I've got on that so far, just kind of running you through what I have got done and what I've added to the checklist to actually get accomplished. If you hear a little bit of noise in the background, that's actually my 3D printer running next to me here. What I'm printing is I'm actually some parts for my Class 2 build here in front of me. Now, in a previous series, I'd kind of talked a little bit about some metal stamping that I had been working on to try and create panels for my builds that look like a bead rolled inset style panel. And I'm gonna actually experiment a little bit more with that on this build here specifically. What I'm working on is some inner fenders for the front. How I started that process is I make myself a cardboard template here. The cardboard template I actually just fit into the vehicle, start marking, cutting, trimming, to get it to fit how I think that it's best going to work. And then from there, I transfer that into CAD. I'm actually using Fusion 360 for what I'm trying to accomplish with this one here. In there, I created the shape of the template, and then from there, I added some recessed areas to look like what a bead rolled panel would be in like the hot rod world. Once I've created that first piece in CAD, then I create another half of it that's slightly offset overall so that when I take the 2 pieces, I can line them up together and then smash them together to create an inset looking panel. Now, I've done this before. I've actually experimented with it on another build, but it just never actually ended up taking it fully to fruition to complete both sides. But this is an example here. These are 2 halves of the mold that I created. And then from there, I used some 0.025 inch thick aluminum, specifically in annealed or dead soft aluminum. It's much easier to work with than a standard aluminum, even like a 3000 series. So I take these 2 pieces, which have a couple of alignment pins or screw hole locations in them, so I can match that up with a couple of holes that I put in the aluminum sheet. Then I'll put the aluminum sheet in there with a piece cut oversized to fit, and then again, just smash these things together in a vise, or I found actually pretty good luck hitting it with a hammer, just kind of going all around, making sure that I'm fairly even to get all of the areas. And if I miss an area or I'm a little light on my pressure, put it back in there and re-tap. But this panel is an example of a panel that came out of this mold specifically. Now, the panel that I have here has actually been cut and trimmed much further than the full-size panel that would have come out of these molds looked like originally. And that was mainly because I kind of overlooked some things on this specific panel when I made my original templates. So that was not the fault of the process, but my fault of not fully thinking through my panel design. Hopefully that's not going to be the case on this one. Now, the one thing is that the molds for just the passenger side for this take about 11 hours to print. Then I have to mirror them and do the other side. So I'm gonna make sure that the one side works properly first before I make that mirror and print the other side. 20 hours of printing plus the time that I had in CAD just for a little bit of extra look, especially when I'm counting down these 39 days. I should really be focusing on things that are much more pressing, no pun intended, I guess. And I'm gonna make a video specifically on this design process that I'm going through for this stamped metal stuff, because it is kind of fun and I think you guys may find it useful in other areas of your build specifically. But some of the other things that we've got accomplished on the Class 2 build since you guys last saw it, I covered in the last video that I have a Pro 4 motor in here, which isn't really ideal for rock crawling. I said that I probably wasn't going to swap it out, but I think I changed my mind. What I actually had got here is I got a couple of Holmes Hobbies 2700 kV Polar Pros, but these are the V2s. These have been redesigned slightly. They've got some really cool features on them. Specifically, they have a larger rotor, and the sensor port orientation has been changed with a new design on the end bell that I really like and is super handy on the VFD transmission. I'm gonna swap that one into this vehicle, and I picked up a stubby version that I think is gonna find its way into the Class 1. Besides swapping that motor, I already have an RX-4 in there and a Futaba servo, but I don't have a winch yet. Last time I used a PowerShift Technologies PST220, I believe, which is like a stubby version, but it works really well with the VS410 chassis, and that's my hope of what I find time to get dropped in here. A winch is obviously a very important part and something that I need to get accomplished sooner than later. I had discussed that I planned on doing a rear cage section, and on top of that, what I had decided to do was cut out all of the body, including the rear tailgate section, and pinch the body. So I've cut out everything, made some cuts, and that's going to allow me to get about a 2-inch total pinch of the rear of the body. I decided to make some inner 3D printed mounts here. These aren't the final ones. These were my first test print. They weren't exactly right. I made one oversight on the design, so I'm gonna change that up. But that's gonna go on the inside of the body, and then I'll actually be able to bolt a outer like aluminum panel, which will kind of look like a rock armor panel, to the outside of the body in through this panel. Now these won't hard mount to the chassis rails like they'd have right now, but that will at least allow me to give the body a hard pinch, make sure that everything is held rigidly where I want it, and hopefully take some stress off that corner where I had to cut the Lex in. I don't want it to tear too easily. I do hope to also kind of support this rear edge of the bottom of the back window with a tray style design on the cage work. Again, that's to hopefully help keep from adding a stress point in that corner. For the interior on this body, I think I'm gonna be able to get away with taking a VS410 Origin body interior and cutting and narrowing it to make it fit in here. That should work for me, and it's got enough depth to the seating area that I can use a full figure if I need the scale points. If I don't need them, I'm not going to add one. I'm not a big fan of actually adding figures to my builds, but if I need it, I've got the depth with that interior. I think the biggest thing holding me back at this point though is metal work. I've got to get the metal work started and completed soon. This truck, I've got a front bumper on already. It needs a little grill guard or a bull bar or something, small stinger added to the front. I need to get some sliders built, and then I need to get the rear cage built. All of those things are just going to eat up time, and I've got to start getting those accomplished. I did bring my welder home yesterday, so I got my TIG welders here, but my fab table is not home yet. I need to get that home before I can really make progress on the metalwork. Being that I'm bringing everything here, hopefully I've got all of the tools that I need home so that I can really get this stuff tackled. I'm gonna try and keep the metalwork in the bed as simple as possible to try and keep things as light as possible, and just to make sure that I get it done in the amount of time that I have, rather than trying to get too crazy with it. I just gotta keep myself just reeled in and realistic. I am going to transfer the shocks to shock mounts on the tube work just to get those simple scale points, and that's something that's really easy to do. Once I get that cage work done back there, I will build a specific drop bed for this rear truck bed area to get the scale points again, get my inner fender points, and fill everything in to make sure that it looks right. And I'll design the cage work so that I can specifically get that drop bed in there without too many headaches and trying to work around tubes and fit everything. I'm gonna try and make it simple on myself. A couple of other changes that have happened also is that you will see that I've got a new set of bronze Method 101s mounted up here with a set of G8 Proline crawler tires. These tires are currently filled with some stock Proline foams. I will absolutely get the Crawler Innovation foams put in there before the event. Once I can check off all of those things, paint is an obvious thing that I need to tackle, and I'm definitely assuming that at this point, this body is going to see something very simple, very basic, likely just days before the event. Odds and ends will definitely be the things that stretch this to the very end. But then transferring from my Class 2 VS410 to my Class 1 VS410. Now, since you saw this truck last, only a handful of things have happened. I did pick up that V2 motor that will get dropped in on this. I've built myself some aluminum inner fender panels. These are just 025 thick regular aluminum that I made patterns for, cut, traced, fit, hand sanded, hand filed, put in there. That'll give me the scale points that I need, keep everything nice and clean looking. I have also worked on some of the styrene in the interior to get that transmission tunnel area just nice and filled in and fixed. I will still need to get that painted. This body also gonna be another one of those that's gonna really come down to the end and most likely get some sort of Krylon fusion paint job. I haven't chosen a color yet, and I don't know how picky I'm going to get when it comes down to it. Some of the things that I have been working on this is I did get a new rear drive shaft installed. It is a shorter drive shaft than the stock VS410, just because of how much I had to shorten the wheelbase to match the body length. It's a prototype drive shaft that we had around the office that happened to fit, and it's just barely short enough. Maybe not 100% short enough, but I think once I get the shocks and everything on there, it'll be right. This truck does have a kit version of the VFD transmission in it. And one thing that I need to do is I need to open this back up and install the 21% overdrive gear set for the VFD transfer case. That'll give me a nice amount of overdrive for this vehicle. I think that'll be all I'll do as far as the drivetrain goes. I don't really see myself having to make any other changes to the actual drivetrain. The metalwork, again, is going to be the biggest hurdle. This truck needs front and rear bumpers. The sliders, I'm actually going to just modify the 3D printed mounts that I have to go a little bit further forward and a little bit further rearward, and then I'm going to plate those with some metal, either aluminum or some very thin steel. Not 100% sure yet, but that should give me enough to get the metal slider points and protect that 3D printing. The rear cage is something that at this point I'm still struggling with a little bit as far as really thinking it through. I do need to incorporate the rear shock mounts, which are going to come through the bed here, and then I need to cover up and get in through the hard body, which is just one of those things that adds another hurdle. I don't expect this body to come off and on easily once I get the cage on there, because I do need to get that cage attached to the chassis and not to the body itself. That's going to be something that's going to take extra effort. I will put the rear seat in this to get the rear seat points, so it'll have a little bit of a family cage style where the cage will come out and then dive down in the back. This one and my soon to exist, I hope, Class 3 are definitely going to have the most cage work to get accomplished. Currently, I still have on the 4.19 inch Proline KM3s. I am considering switching to the 4.19 Hyrax on this. I'm not 100% sure yet, but it's one of those decisions I've been throwing around quite a bit and I may pull the trigger on. I might just bolt them up on another set of wheels just to make sure that I've got the options for either. And then I do plan to compete with this truck at Crawl Masters this year. So that will give me the opportunity to get this truck tested a little bit, but does mean that I have to get it done a full week before the rest of the trucks. Being that this body won't be designed to easily come off and on, I am going to have to figure out a way to get the battery in here and be able to plug it and unplug it as needed. I don't want to leave it in there all the time, but I want to be able to leave it in there at least during a portion of the event. I do have one of the PowerShift RC Deadman switches. I could mount that in the back and give me just an easy way to plug and unplug it. So at least that could get me through during the day. I have trimmed the fender flares, both front and rear on this. There's just so much detail work that still has to get done on this. And the full interior really is going to add to that. This one I feel like is definitely going to be the toughest to get tackled. And then my Class 3, as you can see it here, has made tons of progress. In all actuality, I really do hope to have some sort of physical parts in front of me here to show you guys as an update very soon. I'll be using the Vanquish Capra axles on that build, and those are coming soon. I actually have some hard parts for those. Since the Vanquish Capra axles will have an offset pumpkin, I'll be using that front and rear. Now granted, those will be offset to opposite sides, which isn't ideal, but I think it'll still look good. Plan is to do a chassis mounted servo in the front and axle mounted servo in the rear. Going to be using a Dodge Power Wagon body, which will blend in with the hundreds of other Power Wagon bodies at the event, but regardless, I still love the way it looks. Tires are going to be the biggest decision for me in that class. I'm hoping to have set up 3 sets of tires: a 4.75 inch Proline Hyrax setup, a 4.25 inch tire, and I'm not 100% sure which one I'm going to go with there. There's only a small number of options, but I think that I can find something that I like. That one is definitely going to be a 2.2 though, because the tallest 1.9 options I'm not a big fan of. And then finally, a 5.75 inch tall 2.2 tire set. That way, depending on the course design at the event, I can throw on an appropriate set of tires, hopefully have them tested and set width-wise to give me the best possible options. My coworker Brandon has helped get the capper axles mocked up in CAD so that I can start with a reasonable assessment of where my links need to be. So I think I'm going to be able to knock that out without too much work. And then of course, any metal work that I plan to get done on that truck, which I have fairly high expectations of. I hope to cut the chassis short, both front and rear, and tie into it from there. I see a month full of very little sleep ahead of me. The last Road to the Scale Nationals video, we covered a bunch of people's trucks that weren't my own, and I had a lot of fun with that one. That's one video that I wouldn't mind doing one more time before the actual event. You have to let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed seeing everyone else's trucks, we'd like to see one more shot at that with a bunch of competitors that we didn't hear from before. So drop your comments on that subject below. Love to hear what you guys have to say about that. But that's about all we have for an update. Not a ton, but there's been progress, and really gonna have to kick it in high gear here soon because I've got about a month to finish this truck and just 5 weeks or so to finish this one and one that doesn't exist. I hope you guys enjoy the style of this multi-truck series. I'm really looking forward to this event, so that's why I'm really excited about getting all of these vehicles done. And with that, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you guys at the event and a lot of you guys who aren't going to be at that one at other events throughout the year where these vehicles will most definitely also be. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hope you enjoy. Hit the like button before you leave. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. Again, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.